Hello. In this video, I'm going to show you how to install Netbox. Netbox is a web application for IT professionals. A web application based on the Python Django framework. The idea is basically for network administrators, sysadmins, database administrators, converge and have a central version of the truth. This particular web application is started by the hosting company Debian11, and eventually give the opportunity to actually keep track of everything that actually involves the sites, the inventory, the racks, the allocations, the cross connects, the power allocation, the IPAM, the internet IP addresses, virtualization clusters, and all the information related to that hosting company. There's a demo online on the web that actually you can use to test it, to test drive it, and eventually it lets you log in with the admin credentials, and eventually you can get a look and feel of what exactly is working with this, where you can set up your sites depending if it's geographically diverse on the world, on the globe. You can actually have allocations for what the racks look like. And to me, one of the rack allocation is one of the most valuable resources that you can actually see when you have MDFs, IDFs, and what exactly the Tor switches connect to your devices and they cross-connect those to your databases, to your virtualization. You actually can have different kinds of dependencies. You can actually build all this complexity in one version of the truth, where you can actually allow the teams to have the opportunity to see what exactly is those that data, the contact information. You actually can leverage and import data directly and copy paste on CSV, JSON, or YAML format, submit it, and the framework will really upload it. You can engage some kind of Python automation directly to that. You can build your CMDB. It's a great repository of information. In this particular example, we're going to be using a virtualization VirtualBox, and what we're going to do is virtualize the Django installation of the framework. Everything's going to be based in a Debian, the latest version of Debian, and part of the installation for the Netbox uses the Django, and also relies on Redis, one of the caching database servers, also on Unicorn as some kind of proxy. And eventually, in our installation, we're going to be using Nginx as one of the most popular web servers. There's some other installations available that you can actually use. Actually, in the process, in the main documentation, you can use as a web server. You can choose also Apache if that's what actually is your cup of tea. You prefer to Apache. Option A, Nginx. Option B, you can actually go through the installation of Apache web server, which is just the last part of front end. So you can do either this one. At this point, we're gonna follow. This is the second video. The first one I posted a while back is install Netbox in Alma Linux. Very good replacement for CentOS. In this case, we want to go ahead and go through the exercise of doing the installation in a Debian box, hosted in VirtualBox. This video is recorded on a portable version of ShareX 13.2, I believe. Thank you, ShareX, for letting us record this video. Without any other further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So as you can see, we have in a virtualization, I just cloned a Debian install for Debian Netbox. After the clone, this is what it looks like. It shows basically Debian11, one of the latest versions in VirtualBox. Nothing fancy. I'm logging as root. And just as usual, we want to follow the installation script. It's just a basic text file. I want to put in the notes right here on the video. Potentially, I can put it in a repo. This is the previous video, the Alma Linux. Now we're installing Debian. Let's start getting PostgresQL, the database installed. So basically, just go for that. The speed of this installation a lot on your internet access or your virtualization or laptop speed. If you have solid state drive, preferable, it'd be faster. Of course, what the package manager app is doing is connecting, downloading all those dependencies, getting ready for the PostgreSQL installation. Nothing fancy here. Everything pretty standard stuff right here. So right after that, what we want to do is actually make sure that PostgreSQL restarts on reboot. So once it gets installed, what we want to do is enable in system controller with systemd, and when we use system controller, make sure that actually PostgreSQL survives a reboot. And there it is. We have it running, and it's actually surviving reboot. It's enabled and the status. Now let's connect to the database. And it's actually using the command sudo postgresql. And what we want to do is we want to create a database netbox. We want to grant users to the netbox users, and actually we want to commit those changes to assign those role permissions. We successfully created a database, netboxdb with the user netbox with the password my netbox rocks. Of course, this is just a temporary password. This is for this video only. It will go away. Don't worry about it. It's not going to be compromising any security or nothing on the internet. It's not going to be a production environment at all. So it's just going to be for the scope of this cloning and recording. So right now I tested. Everything looks good. I was able to confirm that I can connect. Next step, let's go ahead and install the Redis server, the caching server. And another thing, nothing fancy, Debian will let us do that task. Go ahead and get to the internet, download the appropriate packages, and since the systemd, it's going to be able to start it. Now let's go ahead and put a little password here on the Redis config, and basically when I look for the requirepass, here when I copy this line, let's go ahead and put Redis password. This is the second password we put here, and that's fine. And in order to take the changes, let's go ahead and do the restart on the Redis so it survives a reload. And let's go ahead and authenticate with the password we just added. It says okay, and like any other window Python applications, Control-D is gonna get us out of that loop. So Control-D right here, you don't see it. Type it. I just execute it. Now let's go ahead and add some user. Let's go ahead and add a user of Netbox. And this is going to be this is regular standard system admin. More dependencies, Python 3 and some other package manager. Nothing really fancy right here. We could have added dependencies at the beginning on the prereqs, apt install dependencies, let it go through all the stuff. I'm just following right now the Netbox documentation step by step how it goes. You can actually take it directly here. You can actually go step by step, and it will walk you to the. This is a 6-level step. We're going to Redis. Right now, we're just following. You can have the option to go on the installation, go for the CentOS, and you can go for the CentOS part, or Alma, or Rocky Linux, or Ubuntu. Ubuntu is good. I like the root of the. It's good. So anyway, I'm just trying to go and stay with that, but nothing wrong. Either distributions are fine. Ultimately, the kernel is going to be the same. We want to continue Netbox, Unicorn, HTTP server, and just go ahead and test it. I want to be able to test it locally. So we want to follow just those steps. Still running, still working on the install, the dependencies. Right after the dependencies, we want to create a directory, a folder, opt netbox. We change to that directory, and basically what I do is when I clean the Git repo of the Netbox community, where you can contribute, you can actually join to the project. It's an open source project and be part of it, community as well. And actually, it's right there doing the cloning. It's going to take no time. We'll actually change the permissions on that particular folder, and eventually we're going to create it and copy some basic configuration file template. In that part, let's go ahead and edit that particular configuration template file. And this is actually for Netbox. You want to allow the host, all the hosts. The database, it was created, if I can go back here, the database was created was netboxdb, and the user was Netbox. So this is going to be netboxdb. The user was created as Netbox. And the password, it was the super secret password we created with my netbox rocks. Right here. There you go. Now we're part of the Redis. The Redis part is part of two components here. As you can see, the first part is the task, the second part is the caching. In both parts, we need to actually go ahead and make sure that we type the respective correct password for Redis. It's both the same. So eventually, let's go back here in the part of the password, the first section on tasks, and put the Redis password, and so as the caching part. The last part of the config is actually the secret key. The secret key is actually something that is going to be within the Python environment that is going to actually let us, I'm going to X shell for a second. I'm going to execute the command and generate the key, the secret key. The secret key can actually be just literally copied. And let me return to my editor. And right here, I just want to insert it. And that's about everything we need to get done. We can actually change to the OPT netbox and eventually do the user netbox pip, which is the package manager for Python, pip3, to the installation of the requirements. This is going to create within that environment or the virtual environment kind of the package dependencies. Python is going to start doing this magic for the framework required by the Django. It's going to start getting everything that it needs to actually build and compile and get the application together. So this first is imagine like a prereqs on the pip environment. That's basically what is needed. The second part is actually going to be the actual upgrade of the application once this is complete. And as you can see, it will take its time, just like the package manager on Debian. And this is actually doing the legwork to go ahead and get those files and everything downloaded and ready for this particular instance. In this case, there's a little message right here. Apparently, there's something that we can actually use or some options that we could pass as the no warning script locations. It's just a warning, not an issue, not a problem. This is just a prereqs, kind of putting the framework, putting the baseline on what exactly we needed. By the time we run the second script, the actual upgrade, is when I found that some of those things are already in place. So it's going to use the cached version of those packages, of those prereqs that they were downloading already. So this second part is going to run faster. As you can see, it's attempting to do something by finding some of those things. In some of those cases, it should be able to actually just use what is actually on cache, using cache packages. So we have the baseline config, sometimes attempts to do some upgrades. If not, we can reuse what is cache. It should be a lot faster, just like any other package manager. I really like this effect. As you can see, it's those kind of colors like green, red, and blue. Kind of nice effect on the install. I think it could be some use cases for some other installations. Is running, is doing the similar compilation of everything, putting everything together. And as soon as putting everything together, I think we'll be ready to start seeing how the script is moving. Eventually, we have the opportunity to get into the environment, create a super user, and run the little testing. So right here, this is the longest part of the process of the installation, because once it finishes the compilation, this is the database migration. This is very, as you can see, this is part of each of those schemas, the authentication, the admin, the tenancy have the different versions. This reminds me a lot like if you ever work with a Rails application, when you do Rails DB migrate, a migration from the Rails database, where actually you can go and they have definitions for go upgrade, either go up or down. In this case, basically it's applying different kind of naming convention for different kind of schemas, applying different things in a particular case, part of the open source project. As you can see, there's been quite a few changes and updates. And again, you can feel free to join to the project and contribute to the open source project, because this has been a very, very nice tool for providing a single version of the tool that eventually, if you're interested, can actually get familiar with the Django framework, get familiar with the way the dependencies, the web application is working, how can actually build those mesh of tables, correlations for the data that is actually going to be in the data center. Of course, for a single user, this is the overkiller. This is going to be for small teams, for companies, with multiple folks working in different areas, and eventually see the need to share information for the IPAM, IP address management, for racks, for collocations, for power, cross connects, even virtualizations. Potentially can be the opportunity for network automation with Python, feeding those data, making one almost like a CMDB, one version of the two, achieving integration with some other systems, whether you have some ticketing system or whether you have some monitoring system or something else. That could be something that can really provide some valuable information. Of course, it's gonna take some diligence to embrace, to work, and to make sure that everybody follows the same standard, the same naming conventions, and eventually, you know, have the culture and eventually the wishful thought to start working, to start doing this, embracing the same application. But as you can see, this is the part that's taking the longest, doing the migrations, applying those things, creating all those updates and schemas, and the database, the web application is going to be able to interact with all those objects. You will have the ability to create some custom packs, correlate all together. It's very robust, it's very powerful. Of course, it's like any other project, like any other software, is not perfect, but it's perfectible. So eventually, more development can be done, more things can be added, or more bells and whistles. But it's a great project. Really excited about this one. That's the reason why I wanted to put out there some easy demo how to install in AMA Linux and also in Debian. Potentially, when I work in a version Docker container, they could be super faster, super easier. And of course, it's going to be an exercise for the reader, for the viewer, to work on how you want to play that database, for your assets, for the things that you have, how you feed those things, and make sure that not only survive reboot, but also can have redundancy, so that way you don't lose any of your data that can be exported. Right now, as you can see, 531 static files copied to the OPT netbox static, and it's actually achieving just the last part of the installation, which is going to take us directly to the point where we want to go ahead and source the environment, the virtual environment that Python is creating for us. And once we do that, what we're going to do is actually going to execute the command create super user. And that's going to let us create a root user or the admin user, whatever is going to be the administrator for the box. Here we go. We source the environment. And then, as you can see at the bottom, you see the virtual environment is actually that part of the in Python. And then we change the folder and we create the super user. And what this is going to do is going to come with a little series of questions for the super users. You can call it admin, root, or something else. I want to use root. Only the phone, just hit enter. The email is going to be that localhost. It's no one send an email, don't worry. And I want to put my super root password for Netbox, which is something secret. And super user was created successfully. When I exit out of the environment, the virtual environment, go back to the shell as root. And now I want to link some of the cron job for the housekeeping on the tasks. I want to, again, source the environment, the virtual environment. I want to change to the folder OPT netbox. And let's go ahead and test drive it. Let's go ahead and run the server for testing purposes in the first time. Python manage run server on port 8000, secure. It goes there. It's going to start the web server. In order to achieve the web server on port 8000, I need to do some mapping, some translation here. I want to go ahead and do the port forwarding in my VirtualBox for the localhost, port 8000, the virtual IP of the virtual machine. Nothing fancy here. That's how I'm SSH into it anyway. And I can actually open localhost port 8000. And as you can see, it's rendering I can actually log in as my user root, one I just created, and the super password that I put on my Netbox user, and voila. You can see that actually Netbox is up and running. You can actually import data, start putting data. I can go ahead and just gonna go to the admin. Let me go to the users. I'm gonna go to root, and I want to put the first name root, just for safe administration of users. Demonstrate that something's being added. Log out. As you can see, go back here, my admin, users, and the first name has been saved. Good deal. So it's saving data in the database. I can go now. As you can see, there's only some rendering of the pages. This is the log of the web server for version 48000. It's insecure. I'll do Control C. Stop the virtual environment. Get out of this virtual environment. Go back as root. Now that we see that actually runs, let's go ahead and get it ready for production and survive reboot. Let's copy some of the files for the unicorn and do the controller reload. Basically, what it does is copy the file as a template and actually make it part of the systemd and system controller reload. And now what we can do is actually start netbox rq and see the status. And the other part is actually going to be the status on netbox itself. And as you can see, it's actually running in multiple instances according to the configuration file that it was showing in Unicorn, the instances on Unicorn. So eventually actually can give us the assurance that it will survive on reboot. Now let's go for the part. I want to install this one in Nginx. Let me go ahead and do this one first. Let me install Nginx with a apt install Nginx. Nothing fancy, package manager, just apt install Nginx. It's one of the most popular web servers, and super easy and super popular, and is there. Now the next thing I want to do the OpenSSL, and actually going to be create netbox CRT. That's what I want to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and do this right now. Let's want to say country US, state, Sweet Home Alabama, it's in Albertville, North Alabama. Let's say box and OIT, a common name. All this, of course, is fake. And now let's go ahead and copy some of the country files, remove the initial files on Nginx, and that's all she wrote. Let's test the config, make sure the config looks good. Yeah, the syntax looks okay. Let's do the restart Nginx with the new files and give it a shot. Now, in order to do that, let's go ahead and do one more mapping here. What I like to do is actually go to the advanced part. Let me go ahead and add another port on mapping. Let's do 127.0.0.1 port 450, then 0.15 on 53 as well. With that said, let's go back and open HTTPS localhost. And of course, it comes with a certificate. Proceed with the local on save. That's fine because it's not actually generated by a trusted source, but actually you can see it's actually ability to log in. Let me log in as root. And after login and doing the proxy on that one behind the scenes is warming up a little bit, we can see that actually we're hosting our application. We can actually validate that actually we're exactly the same side where we were. So that concludes the installation of Netbox in Debian. Hopefully you like it, you enjoy something today. Either you can do with Alma Linux, which is CentOS based, or you can do with a Debian or Ubuntu, Debian Linux. This is a great tool, great resource, something really to thought about, to work with a IT teammates, to coordinate, to orchestrate, to organize everything. And of course, as an exercise, it's going to be for the viewer to see how that was PostgresQL synchronized and back up in another tenant, so eventually you don't lose your data, synchronize things like that. But hopefully you enjoyed. Great tool, great open source project, and see you next time. Happy February 2023. Stay tuned. Click on like if you like it. Have a great day.